I'm an American who's been living abroad and traveling the world for nearly 2 years, and through that time, I have experienced a great deal of culture shock. Bearing that in mind, in this video, I am going to be reacting to other Americans as they travel the world and experience culture shock abroad. Without further ado, let's get into this first video. Things in the Netherlands that would nearly put North Americans into a coma.
Things in the Netherlands that would nearly put North Americans into a coma.
Hello, how are you feeling?
I'm not feeling good. I have strep throat. I've had it before. Exactly what it feels like.
Ooh. Well, before we prescribe anything, I'm gonna suggest ginger and mint tea. Come back and see me in a few days if it gets any worse. Feel better.
No.
Okay, so honestly, I don't really know what to make of this. I'm a bit of an outlier in that I haven't been to the doctor for a regular checkup or really for anything illness related since I was around 14 years old. And I'm 25 as I film this video. So it's been a very, very long time. I don't even know what they would do in the US if you had strep throat. So if you have more experience with that, then let me know in the comments. I just try to avoid going to the doctor because, well, I'm not really trying to spend the money on that, which is pretty sad when you think about it. But staying on topic, I don't really know what's typical in the Dutch healthcare system, but based on what he just showed, it seems like they are kind of similar to me in a sense in that they have an aversion to medication. I'm not saying that that's necessarily true for all Dutch people, but it seems like in the Dutch healthcare system, they're slow to turn to medication, to unnatural sources of healing if they can avoid it. And that's exactly how I operate. I'm the kind of person who, if I have a really bad headache, if I'm nauseous or whatever else, I'm gonna go to sleep, I'm gonna drink some water, I might drink some tea, I'm gonna turn to every natural resource possible before going to the doctor. But it seems like in the Netherlands, where obviously healthcare is much more accessible for the average person, even when you go to the doctor, they're just going to turn you to the natural resources as well. So I guess that's just another way that I fit in very well with Dutch culture, which, if you didn't know, one of the countries that I have lived in or been to in the past couple years is the Netherlands. So although I can't speak much to the healthcare system there, I do feel like that is something that I would resonate with based on what I see in this video. But if you have more experience with the Dutch healthcare system, let me know what that's like in the comments. Let me know if this reflects your personal experience, because from everything I've heard, it seems like when they do turn to medication, it's almost always paracetamol. That's basically a whole thing. It's a whole meme and stereotype about the Netherlands. It's that Dutch doctors will give you paracetamol. I don't even know what paracetamol is. I don't know what it does. I don't know if it's a pain relief medication or what it's meant for. Let me know in the comments if you know what it's for and if you've taken it and if it actually worked. But it's nice to know that they are not just immediately turning to prescription medication like they probably would in the US, because obviously we think about the pharmaceutical companies in the US and their primary goal is to make as much money as possible. And obviously with the healthcare system as a whole being a part of that, they are heavily incentivized to provide medication or to prescribe medication for a very hefty cost at that. That said, let's go ahead and check out some of these comments right here. This person right here said, that's way better, just seeing pills as the last option. Again, I agree with that. I agree. I know I might be a bit of an outlier or a contrarian in that regard, but I just don't like taking medicine when I can avoid it. I mean, I feel like there's almost always a natural cure, and when there's not, then you turn to medicine. And in the Netherlands, it'll be significantly cheaper than in the US. This person said strep throat with antibiotics, 7 days, without antibiotics and paracetamol, also 7 days. So I guess what they're saying is that you can't really cure strep throat with medication, so there's really no point in taking the medication. I don't really know how strep throat works because I've never had it, but I do know that when you're sick, you usually can't just take medication to get rid of it. Again, I don't know if strep throat is like your common cold or flu or whatever. Right now, I'm a little bit under the weather. I don't know if you can tell from my voice, but I'm just waiting it out because what else can you really do? On to the next video.
Today is day 15 of Culture Shocks of moving from Austin, Texas to Berlin, Germany. Let's get into it. Today we are talking about the lady doctor or the OBGYN. Now, I have been to the lady doctor here 2 times. First when I originally moved, and then I just went again for my yearly checkup. And I just find the entire experience to be very different from what I'm used to in the States. Typically in the States, when you go to the lady doctor, the nurse will bring you back, go over your height and weight, all of that good stuff, any medications. Then you're left in the examination room to go ahead and declothe, put on like a hospital gown that either ties in the front or the back. I can't remember which way they tell you to do it. Then you go ahead and sit in the examination chair and you have like a blanket on top of you. So you are fully covered when the doctor walks in. Then you go ahead and go over everything with them. They do the examination. They leave the room. You put all your clothes back on. You're done and dusted for the day, right? Now in Germany, I found the experience to be very, very different. So when they call you back, you're immediately with the doctor, and it's almost like their office is within the examination room. So I don't think they go to different rooms. They just have the one room where they do the examinations, and that's like their office in general, right? So you're sitting at the desk and you're going over everything with them. Then she goes, okay, you can go ahead and go in the dressing room, which is right next to the desk. She goes, you can go ahead and go in the dressing room and declothe from the waist down. And I'm like, huh, okay, interesting. So I go into the dressing room, and I'm like, huh, there's no like gown, there's no towel, there's nothing to like wrap around my waist when I walk out. So I'm like, does she want me to just walk out like Pooh Bear? Like, am I just not gonna be covered when I walk out? Which, like, I mean, I know I'm in the room with just her and she's the one doing the examination, but like, interesting. So then I ask her, I'm like, cause she can hear me, I'm just literally in a little box and she's right here. And she's like, I'm like, hey, do I need like a towel or like a gown to cover up? And she was like, no, it's okay. You can leave everything from the waist up on. Just take everything from the waist down off. And I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you for the clarification. So I do what she says. And in my head too, I'm like, do I leave my shoes on? Do I leave my socks on? I don't need those off for the examination, right? So I decide to leave the socks on. I feel like the shoes would be weird, but the socks should be okay. So then I walk out like Pooh Bear, you know, she does the examination, all fine and dandy. Then she goes, okay, you can go back in the dressing room. And this time, you know, put the trousers back on, declothe from the waist up. I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. So then I do what she says, and this time I'm walking out like Donald Duck after a shower, and I'm, you know, declothed from the waist up, and she does the examination. Then she goes, okay, you're good to go. I go back in the little box changing room that's within everything, put everything back on, and she goes, okay, you're done for the day. And I'm like, that was such a strange experience. Like, in the States, I just feel like we have a completely different culture when it comes to the birthday suit. We're very conservative, especially in Texas where I'm from. We just wouldn't have you necessarily declothed and just like walking around our office or the examination room. It's the same thing. But I just thought it was a very, very funny experience and very different than what I have ever experienced in the States. So yeah, that was today's Culture Shock. I hope y'all enjoyed. Be sure to like and follow for some more.
So again, I personally have not really been to the doctor in a very long time, so I don't really have full credibility to speak on that, especially a lady doctor, because obviously I've never been to a lady doctor before. I don't even know what an OBGYN is. Let me know in the comments because I feel like that's something I should know. But that, I think, is more a byproduct of the difference in nudity culture between the US and Europe. And to her point, she's from Texas. I'm from Texas as well, so I know just as well as she does that Texas is not a place where nudity is widely accepted. There's still a very strong taboo around it. And this is kind of getting off topic, but even outside of the medical context, because obviously in a medical context, there's a certain degree of professionalism that you expect from your doctor, that even if you're a little uncomfortable psychologically, you should know in the back of your mind that you're safe being nude around your doctor. But what I noticed, what really stood out to me personally, was the level of comfort with nudity around friends and family members. Now, I'm only going based on the sample size that I have been exposed to, but it's my understanding, let's say, for example, within my girlfriend's family, not trying to put all of their business out there, but I think this is pretty common in Europe. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments, but all of them have seen each other naked. They've all seen each other naked at some point or another. It's completely normal and acceptable for one of them to be taking a shower and the other one to walk in the bathroom while they're taking a shower. I have never seen my parents naked, at least as far back as I can remember. if I did, I certainly would not feel comfortable with that. Wouldn't feel comfortable being around my sister naked, or really any of my other family members. Sure as hell I've not seen any of my friends naked before, whereas my girlfriend, for example, has, and I believe vice versa. And it's not in a sexual context, of course, it's just they're nude. And this is so mind-blowing, and I know it's probably, if you're a European watching this, even more mind-blowing that it's mind-blowing to me, because in the US, especially a place like Texas, I mean, the average person has access to a gun. People have access to guns. Gun usage and ownership are widely acceptable, whereas nudity is not. And honestly, I agree that that is a backward mentality to have. That said, getting back on topic, I do find myself very uncomfortable being naked around other people. In fact, the only person who's seen me naked in my adult life is my girlfriend. Literally the only person. The only person. So I guess that's something that over time, as I spend more time in other parts of the world, I'm just gonna have to adapt to in one way or another. And especially whenever I go to the doctor, I guess that'll happen at some point or another. But let me know how you see nudity in the comments below. And speaking of comments, let's go ahead and check out some of the comments of this post right here. I mean, she's gonna see it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That's true. That's very true. I mean, given the context, if they're going to see it, walking out of the little dressing room or being in the little main area or whatever, it doesn't really matter as long as other patients aren't seeing you. This person right here said, in Finland, it's pretty much similar, although rarely there's a changing room. You just take your shoes off, drop them pants, and into the chair you go. So you just got to get straight to it. I've heard that in the Scandinavian cultures in particular, nudity is pretty widely accepted. I guess with the whole sauna culture thing in Finland specifically, that does make a lot of sense. That said, on to the next video. You don't really see that in the US, and you don't see that in Asia either. I mean, so far I've been to Thailand, filming this video in Vietnam, and they literally have signs in the stores here. I didn't know what they said at first because I don't really speak or read Vietnamese, but when I used the little translator app thing where it translates the text, it said that you're only allowed to purchase the full package. You cannot take one out of the package. So you're either getting the whole thing or you're getting nothing. And I mean, obviously this is a pretty insignificant cultural difference, but one thing I think it does point to and reinforce is the bulk culture in the US, and I guess to a certain extent here in Asia as well. People tend to purchase things in bulk rather than going to the store every day or every other day to get the stuff that they need. And in the US, that does make sense to a degree because stores are often not within walkable distance, and even if they are, the actual path that you would walk on to get there is not particularly comfortable or safe to be on. So it makes sense in the US that people would purchase things in bulk, but we also have to consider the implication that if you're able to purchase something in bulk, if you're able to buy, let's say, for example, 2 weeks worth of bread, maybe that bread is not good. And what I mean by that is, it must not be very high quality bread, or it must be absolutely saturated in preservatives if you're able to continue eating the same bread for 2 weeks straight without it molding or going bad in general. Now, of course, with, let's say, for example, sodas like we saw in the video right here, that's not really as much of an issue. But when we think about consumption and what consuming 6 bottles of soda will do, rather than 1 bottle of soda. Personally, I don't drink soda at all, but if I had to drink soda, it's better to drink 1 bottle than 6. It's easy to see why Americans have an obesity problem.